So in this video, we're going to discuss Skype Patch with Playback. In a standard patch configuration, you either dial the client with Skype or with a telephone, and then they can coach you through the script and help you out. In this case, you would connect your audio interface or microphone, whether it be USB or analog, to your computer, and then tell Skype that you'd like to use that microphone by going into Skype's preferences and choosing microphone as your USB mic or as your audio interface / sound card, whichever one you choose to use. In this tutorial, I'm using a Audio-Technica 2020 USB microphone, so that's what you're going to see here. The speakers is where the sound is going to come out. This microphone doesn't have a headphone jack, and so I'm going to pipe my audio out through the built-in output on my computer. But if you had a USB microphone with a built-in output, you could choose that as well, or if you had a sound card, you would choose that as the input and the output. So in this scenario, once again, you connect your audio interface or USB mic to your computer, you open up Skype and choose the input and the output that you'd like, dial your client, and then they can coach you through the script. Sometimes you actually get into a workflow where they need to coach you remotely, but they actually want the high quality files after you've recorded them. This is pretty common so that they can work on them, put them in a video, do whatever they have to do. In this case, you're actually interested in sending your audio via Skype out to the client, but you're also interested in recording the audio to your computer so that you can send them the high quality files after you guys hang up via WeTransfer or Hightail or some other web sending service. So in this case, you would go through the same process. You would connect your microphone or your audio interface to your computer. You would again go into Skype, choose the microphone as your microphone, the output as your microphone or your audio interface, and then you would have the additional step of going into Twisted Wave and creating a new session and setting the input device as your microphone as well. Again, I'm using an Audio-Technica 2020 USB here, so that's my input device for this system. Then you can hit record, put away Twisted Wave while it's recording for the 30 minutes, hour, 3 hours, whatever it takes you until you get finished, and then edit the files and send them the WAV file so that they could use them in their production. In this video, though, we are actually going to cover playback of pre-recorded audio. So you, in this scenario, record your audio to Twisted Wave, you send it live via Skype out to the client, but they actually want to hear back to audio that's been pre-recorded to Twisted Wave during the session. That's actually a difficult thing to do, and normally this is taken care of via a hardware mixer outside of your computer in what we call a standard mix-minus configuration. But with a software package called Jack, we can actually route all of this internally in the computer and send this audio back out through Skype to the client so that they can hear you, again, live, and also from the recording that you're doing in Twisted Wave. So this last path is that extra path that's going to cause us to install some software and do some configuration, and that is what this video is about. So what is Jack? Well, Jack Router or Jack OS X, it goes by a couple different names, or just Jack, is a system that sits inside your computer that actually takes multiple inputs and outputs and routes them through itself. This is kind of difficult. When you plug a microphone into your computer, you can tell, of course, Twisted Wave or Skype or some other product to use that microphone. But to route audio from one program to the next program is a difficult thing. Now, there is a product out on the market called Soundflower that's free that a lot of people use. But this is a system that actually has routing built into it so you can route stuff around. So what we need to do is we need to go install it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Jack OS X in the search bar, and our first hit is jackosx.com. This is their old website. You can see there's some errors on the page. We are going to go to download, and this will take us to this page, and it says please visit jackaudio.org for the latest Jack versions for Mac, so we will go there. This takes us to their main page. Of course, we want to download this, so I'm going to click on this link. And because we are on Mac, we're going to go down to OS X, and we're going to be looking for binaries, which are the DMG image files that we can use to install. So if you are on a system above Snow Leopard, which was 10.6, which most likely you are because that is a 4-year-old system, I want to say, you will be installing this. So we'll click this and it will pop up an installation window so I can save the file. I've already done this and saved this to my computer, so I'm going to close this and it will pop up on my desktop here. I can double click it, and of course it's a standard installation file, so you can go through the whole thing here. I'm not going to do that because it's going to ask me to restart my system after I install it, but go ahead and go through that, install it, restart your system, come back to where you are now, and then you can configure your stuff. So once this has been configured, once you've installed Jack into your system, then it's a matter of opening the programs that you need after you open Jack. So first what we need to do is we need to go locate Jack, which is in your applications folder. So I'm going to go into applications and I will look for Jack, which is up here in this folder. And what we're looking for is the Jack Pilot application. Now I've dragged this into my dock, which is down here, so I can open it from there, but that is the program that you're going to want to use to start this. So again, when you start Jack, what it does is it starts taking in audio inputs and outputs and routing them through itself so that you can send audio around your computer. Okay, I have an Audio-Technica USB microphone that will accept an input, which means my voice, but does not have a sound output, i.e. a headphone jack on the microphone itself. Now, newer models do, the Audio-Technica 2020 USB Plus, the Rode NT USB, the MXL009, lots of the Yeti. There are many different versions of USB microphones that have a headphone jack out on them. This microphone does not, and so we actually have to go through an extra step to get this to work with our system. And what we need to do is we need to create an aggregate device. An aggregate device is like a virtual sound card in your system. So we can take an input of a microphone and we can take an input of a sound card or some other device and we can turn it into an aggregate or virtual sound card. And the way that we do this is we go into our applications menu and we go all the way down to utilities, and then we go to audio MIDI setup. Again, applications, utilities, and then audio MIDI setup. I'm going to click on this. I've already created an aggregate device, but I will go ahead and delete that so we can do this together. These are your sound cards or devices that deal with sound on your computer, and there are a few of them if you have other sound cards. I have a 003 rack and then some built-in stuff as well. Here, of course, is my microphone. What we need to do is create that aggregate device so I can choose the built-in Mac sound card and my Audio-Technica USB and combine them into one virtual sound card. So I'm going to go down to the plus to add a aggregate device. I will title this device Mic Ag, just so I know what it is. And then over in the matrix over here, I need to add the devices that I want to add into that aggregate device to use. So first off, I need to add in my built-in output, which is the headphone jack on the back of my Mac. I will use that. And then I need to add in my Audio-Technica 2020 USB mic, and I will add that. Once these two devices are checked, and be careful if you're adding an Audio-Technica USB mic to add in drift correction, which is over here. Let me see if I can just show that to you. Drift correction is something that can happen with a USB microphone, in which case it's drifting from the standard clocked sample rate of the system. Sample rates are run by internal clocks, and the built-in Mac is the Mac is running the built-in clock, and at times the USB mic will drift. So drift correction resets that back to normal. You can see here in the matrix that the Audio-Technica has two ins, in which case actually is only one, it's mono, and the built-in output is two outputs. So once this is set up and we've titled it Mic Ag, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to close Audio MIDI setup. Then I will go into Jack and I will open it up, and the first thing you see when you open it up is the Preferences window. Preferences window wants you to set this up. Okay, if you have a sound card or audio interface, those are the same things. Your input and your output device need to be the same thing, which means your microphone, which is analog, is plugged into your audio interface, and your headphones are also plugged into your audio interface. If you have a USB microphone with a headphone jack on it, you need to choose the input device and the output device as the same thing. Because I'm using an Audio-Technica USB that does not have an audio output, I needed to create an aggregate device to merge the output of my Mac and my Audio-Technica mic together into a single device. That Mic Ag device, I will choose those. and you'll see as I choose one, it automatically chooses the second. Important for us is our sample rate, which is always 44,100. You need to change that to 44,100 if you don't already have it. You can leave almost all of these settings alone. I would leave your interface input channels set alone to 2. That's fine. Interface output channels is almost always going to be 2. That's fine. In the router itself, which is how Jack uses audio to send audio around, you should leave these alone at 2 and 2. Auto connect with physical ports has already been checked. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that, and I'll hit save. So now we've set up our preferences. You can get to those again here if you'd like to. Jack Router or Jack Pilot, which is the application that starts the routing, is not started. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start this by hitting start. We'll wait a second. Should pop up. You'll start to see a CPU load. You'll see a meter for that. We're running now. Now I bring up my routing window, which is how I route stuff in my computer, and I want to point some stuff out to you. The send ports are from my microphone, and I have Capture 1 and Capture 2. Capture 1, of course, is my microphone because I'm doing mono, so I'm just going to focus on Capture 1. Playback 1 and Playback 2 is my Mac outputs. So I'm going to leave this stuff alone. This is the system. Now I'm going to start to go and open all of the applications I need for today's session. So first I'm going to open Skype. I have this set to auto connect automatically when I start in. I will go up to Skype and Preferences, and I will go to Audio Video. Now I've done this in a test before, so these are already set, but in any case, your microphone needs to be set to Jack Router. Not your USB mic, not your sound card, not your Mac. This needs to be set to Jack Router. And you can see that the volume here is bouncing up and down based on what I'm doing into the microphone. I would uncheck automatically adjust microphone settings because you should adjust that on your audio interface, or if you are using an Audio-Technica USB microphone like I am, your input device in sound preferences, input USB is governed by this slider here. So your ringing can be set to whatever you want. That's for the sounds of Skype. Don't worry about that. But the speakers do need to be set to Jack Router. This is very important. So the input microphone is Jack Router. The speakers are Jack Router. And again, if we look at this diagram really quick again, Jack Router takes all of these inputs and outputs and routes them internally and then sends them to whatever you want to send it to. So our inputs and our output of most of our devices need to be set to Jack Router. Okay, we're good to go. So we will close that window and we can call somebody if we want. Okay, now I'm going to go into Twisted Wave. I'm going to open up Twisted Wave. I will create a new session. This session will be 16-bit, and the sample rate here is important, 44,100 hertz, as we set in our Jack Pilot system over here. Channels, mono, yep, always mono. I will hit OK, and here is our Twisted Wave. I will go up to Audio, and I will choose my input device as Jack Router. Again, I did this video just a minute ago to test it, and so this is already set at Jack Router, but you might need to change it. So Jack Router for input, and can you guess where the output's going? Yes, of course, it's going to Jack Router. Okay, so those are both set up. We're good to go. I am going to hit record, and you will see me recording with my microphone here. Everything seems like it's set up. Why is that working if it's going into Jack Router? Let's go back to our connections manager. Oh, look, stuff is populated now. All right. So if we look over here, we'll start to see populations of our items. We have 4 connections that are being made inside Jack Router. If I click on Skype, what I can do is maybe call somebody. Let's see if I can call myself, which is my cell phone. Let's see if that adds Skype here. Yes, it does. I am not actually going to dial myself. I'm going to let that go. I did need to show you these. Oh, it's only going to come back if I'm using Skype. Okay, so I'm going to add Skype back to this. I will call myself on my cell phone, and I will leave that and accept my Skype call really quickly. There we are. All right. So now I am talking to myself through Skype. Anyways, those are set up here, and if we come over here, we'll see Skype. Okay, so importantly, let me show you how this routing works. Anything that is read has been routed to or routed from in this matrix of back and forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find what is read by clicking on some options over here, and I'm going to uncheck them over here by double clicking them because I'd like to break the system down to its nominal value or normaled, which means none of the connections are made, and that's pretty important. So I'm going to click on System and I will double click Twisted Wave. Then I will go down here and see if anything turns red over on the right. Click on Twisted Wave, System. I'm going to double click it to undo it. Okay, check here. Skype, System, I will uncheck that. So now nothing should be read. Connections, 0. That's good. Okay, I want to show you how to set up your routing in the system. That's pretty important. What we need to do is we need to take our microphone, which is Capture 1, and we need to send this to Skype so our client can hear it. So I'll click on Capture 1 once, and then I will double click on Skype. And if I go into Preferences in Skype, you will see that it is actually coming from my microphone. So this is a way for us to check. If you leave this Preferences window open and not close it like I just did in the video, this Skype box will appear without you having to call anybody. And I can test that by actually hanging up on myself here. Sorry me. Going back up here, and you'll notice that Skype doesn't disappear. So in reverse, actually, what I would do is open this window up, leave it up to make sure this connection's been made. Okay, so let's go back to the router. Again, Capture 1 is our microphone. We've double clicked on Skype. So Capture 1, my microphone, mono, is sending to in1, in2 of Skype, which means left and right. It's important to click on Capture 1 and not just in 1 or in 2, but actually the name Skype, because the client would only hear the audio coming out of the left or the right channel if you did so. So by clicking on Capture 1 and double clicking on Skype, you send audio 1 to both of these inputs of Skype, which is technically the output of Skype to the client. Okay, now I need to take the microphone and I need to send it to Twisted Wave so I can record. So I'm going to click on the microphone and I will click on Twisted Wave, but because I'm in a mono session, I'm not going to actually click on the name Twisted Wave. I'm going to click on Input 1 because I just want to record on Input 1. So I will do that by double clicking on Input 1. That's verified over here, System to Capture 1. Okay, so Skype, if I click back on Capture 1, is going to Skype in 1, Skype in 2, and Twisted Wave in 1. So now Jack has routed the microphone to both Twisted Wave in 1 and Skype in 1 and 2. This is verified, of course, by going into Twisted Wave, hitting record, and you see that both audio is going to Skype via this meter here. It is also going to Twisted Wave. I'm recording high quality audio directly from my microphone into Twisted Wave, and I'm sending it to Skype at the same time so the client can hear me. But now what I want to do is I need to route the audio from Twisted Wave back out to the client so the client can actually hear the audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my routing manager over here, and I'm going to take the output of Twisted Wave by clicking on Twisted Wave and sending that to Skype, stereo to stereo, and that's okay to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my recording, and I'm going to play back some of the audio by clicking here and hitting play, and I'm going to be quiet for a second so that you can watch this meter bounce as Twisted Wave sends audio through Jack out to Twisted Wave, or out to Skype. Here we go. And you can see that bouncing, meaning that my audio now, as I'm talking, is going to Skype, but audio from Twisted Wave is also going to Skype from Playback. That is the point of this whole video. Importantly, though, I want to point out, if I go to start recording again, it's not recording anything. For some reason, because we don't have auto input monitoring in Twisted Wave, it actually breaks the connection to the Jack router. So once you hit record again to continue to record, you need to go back to this window, and that's why I leave this window up, and actually reconnect your microphone to Twisted Wave in. And there it goes, it's starting to record again. So once again, we're talking, the client is assisting me, they're coaching me, I'm recording audio in Twisted Wave, everything's copacetic, it all feels good. I stop, he wants to hear back the last thing I recorded. So I click in Twisted Wave, I go back, I replay it. Again, watch the meters above. They're bouncing up and down, meaning that audio from Twisted Wave is getting to the client. I am still getting to the client. As you can see, this is bouncing up and down. but I want to go back to record some more audio so that I can send this audio to the client afterwards, again, because he's going to need this high quality audio. So I send my cursor forward in twisted wave, I hit record, I go back to my matrix router, take my microphone, I need to send it to the input 1. If I click out and click back, you'll see it's gone black, which is non-selected. So I hit capture 1, double click in 1, and voila, audio is going back into twisted wave. Now, if you're working in a multi-track system like Pro Tools or Reaper, you can auto-input monitor the track itself, and that means an audio stream is always going through the program into Jack, which means it never dies, which means you don't have to re-click this each time. But because we're using twisted wave and we don't have auto-input monitoring, we can't actually make that connection live all the time. Now, I did actually go up to audio and choose check input levels, which is sort of like a fake input monitoring, meaning I can check my levels and audio is passing through, and I can hit record by hitting record here. And you'll notice that I'm actually recording from the microphone. It's going through to Skype. If I stop and I play back, it goes back through. When I go to record again, it dies. So we're actually in a situation where we have to reconnect. So what you want to do is hit record again and then go back to capture 1 here. Again, double click in and it will select through. And that's it. So this is Skype Patch with Playback. I ran into one issue that I wanted to tell you about, and that was the Aggregate Engine. I tried to start my Jack Pilot and it kept failing. And again, only because I'm using a microphone that does not have audio playback through the device itself, I actually had to set up an Aggregate Engine so that I could combine the Mac output with my USB microphone to get this thing to work. I think in all other cases, though, with a standard sound card, as the input and the output is the same, and even with a USB microphone that has a headphone jack on it, which you should plug your headphones into, you'll choose input and output in the jack preferences again as the same as well. I don't think you're going to run into that issue, and you won't have to set up the aggregate. But what you probably want to do is test this out with a friend at least once, just to see how it works, go through it, and then you can reliably tell clients that you can work through this and play them back audio from your system. Now, of course, this isn't just limited to twisted wave. You could, of course, play back audio from your computer as well, because Jack will take any input and turn it into an output to send through. The connections that are made automatically that you'll see red when you open this connections manager after setting the inputs and the outputs in twisted wave are a bit suspect, and that is because it's possible to take the audio from Skype and record it into twisted wave, which will mix their audio, which is usually pretty dirty because they're in a bad room, with your clean audio, which is not what you want to do, because then when you go to send them the audio, it's going to be mussed up from the Skype audio. So what I like to do is I actually like to uncheck all of the settings and reset this up by myself. Now, this is important. You can actually set up a preset for this, so you don't have to actually go back and redo this again. And what I do is go to Save Studio Setup, and I call this, let's say Skype Patch, and I will save this to my desktop. And then when you go and you follow the same procedure where you open up the programs, you set their inputs and outputs, what you can do is go into Jack Pilot and hit load, and it'll wipe out the previous setting and load in the one. The Skype Patch that we saved is saved with skypepatch.jks, which is the name of the extension for Jack Pilot. So I hope this video was helpful. It's a kind of a complex process, but it's actually pretty cool that you can play back audio through this routing and you don't have to go out and buy a hardware mixer. Stay tuned to some other nuanced tone tutorial videos, and we'll keep you updated with new things as they come out.